So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I would like to thank Raul and all the coordinators of the ODSI for the invitation. I'm very sorry I'm going to have to read my speech because English is my second language and sometimes I cannot remember the words. But I'm very humbled and honored to be here today sharing this event with you. Like you all know, over the past year, we have witnessed the emergence of a global student intifada. From North America to Latin America, from Europe to Africa and Asia, students have occupied campuses and established encampments in solidarity with the Palestinian people. These actions are not isolated. They represent a broader political process, the radicalization and the uprising of a generation that sees in real time the genocide of the Palestinian people, the destruction of Gaza, and refuses to accept the complicity of their institutions. The encampments are not just protest tactics. They are spaces of political education and coordination, embryonic forms of collective power inside universities. They have broken through the limits of symbolic activism, and within them, discussions about colonialism, imperialism, and capitalism have taken on a new relevance. The moral indignation that first moved students has begun to mature into political understanding. In Brazil, recently, this process reached a turning point, and I'm glad to say to you now that the University of São Paulo, the university that I'm part of, decided to suspend cooperation with the University of Haifa. This was not the result of administrative initiative or diplomatic pressure. It was won through mobilization. It is proof that collective action, when persistent and organized, can force concrete changes. The victory at the University of São Paulo is part of a global trend, a recognition that academic neutrality in the face of oppression does not exist. Every institution is either complicit with or opposed to injustice. And however, these victories also reveal the limitations of the current movement. While universities can and must be pressured, the decision occur within a broader political and economic framework that remains untouched. The same government that expressed hypocritical concern for Palestine continue to maintain military, technological, and commercial ties with Israel. The contradiction is evident. In Brazil, for example, President Lula has repeatedly declared that he opposes the genocide, but not the Israeli state, recently saying that I have no problem with Israel, I have a problem with Netanyahu. That's his quote. Similar positions appear in Europe. Many governments criticize the occupation and say they defend the Palestinian state, but continue to trade arms. They condemn civilian casualties, while banning pro-Palestine demonstrations. These are not isolated inconsistencies, but expressions of the same underlying reality. Capitalist states, even those led by so-called progressive coalitions, are structurally bound to imperialist interests. They depend on financial markets, on strategic alliances, and on armed industries that benefit directly from war and occupation. Their language of human rights functions as a cover for maintaining those relations. These contradictions define the terrain of our struggle. If we want to move beyond symbolic victories, the students' movement must connect its fight inside universities to the broader balance of forces in society. The decisive question is power. Who controls production, trade, and state itself? Students can expose and pressure, but the working class, alongside with its allies and social movements, has the capacity to stop the system that sustains the occupation. Workers in transport, energy, communication, and this industry have leverage that students alone do not possess. When dock workers refuse to load weapons, like in Italy, the impact is immediate. For that reason, the next step of the movement must to build connections with unions, labor federations, and social struggles. We have historical reference points. In '68, in France, The students' uprising was a spark that ignited a general strike of 10 million workers. In Latin America, students and worker unity has repeatedly challenged dictatorships and neoliberal reforms. These experiences show that our movement becomes a political force only when it aligns with material power. And to achieve this alignment, organization is essential. Russian revolutionary Leon Trotsky transitional program emphasized that revolutions are not made through declarations, but through a series of struggles that link immediate demands to the need of systemic transformation. And Argentinian Marxist Nahuel Moreno later insisted that without conscious organization, democratic discipline rooted in workplaces, communities, and schools, spontaneous movements eventually dissolve or are co-opted. So our current movement has reached that juncture. The encampments express a collective will, but they must now evolve into durable structures capable of coordinating across regions and sectors. This means establishing permanent committees, maintaining contact with labor unions, and formulating a political program that connects the immediate fight against genocide to the broader struggle against the capitalist order that produces it. So the key element, the central element of this program should be, of course, the fight for one democratic state in historic Palestine, where all inhabitants enjoy equal rights, a secular, socially just, and democratic state from the river to the sea, like it's mentioned on the event declaration. This is not a utopian slogan, but a democratic necessity after decades of the failed two-state negotiations. Yet, even this demand cannot be realized in isolation. The persistence of apartheid and occupation is inseparable from global imperialism and the profit system. The struggle for a democratic Palestine is therefore linked to the struggle for social transformation on a global scale. This understanding gives the movement its transitional character. Immediate objectives, university divestment, academic boycotts, protection of students under repression must be tied to demands that reveal the limits of existing order and lead us to one democratic state solution. Each of these steps raises the questions of who governs societies, resources, and in whose interests. They build a path towards the isolation of the Zionist entity, the dismantling of the colonial society, the guarantee of the right to return, and finally, complete self-determination and liberation. But this perspective requires patience and persistence. From our perspective, the encampments were beginning a moment of political awakening. Their lasting value will depend on whether we can transform that awakening into an organization capable of acting beyond the campus. The transition from protest to power is neither automatic, not quick. It requires international coordination, planning, and the willingness to engage in long-term struggle. It also requires organizing real solidarity from below, from student, workers, and oppressed people organizing together with independence from any government or company. Well, the challenge before us is considerable, but it's not abstract. We have seen that collective action works. We have witnessed governments forced to respond, institutions compelled to break ties with Zionism, and the Palestinian questions returning to the center of world politics. The task now is to deepen this process, to link conscience to strategy and solidarity to material force. Our goal is not merely to protest injustice, but to create the conditions for ending it from its origin. Yes, that requires building a movement that is internationalist, democratic, and rooted in both youth and labor, and of course, coordinated and led by Palestinians themselves. It's through this alliance that the vision of a free Palestine and beyond it, a world free from all kinds of oppression and exploitation, can become a concrete possibility rather than a moral and utopian aspiration. So let the victory at the University of São Paulo be a symbol, proof that action works, that pressure can make cracks in the walls of complicity, but let it also remind us that this is only the beginning. We cannot stop at the universities. We cannot stop at declarations. We must take this movement into every corner of society. So from the encampments to the factories, from the barricades to the picket lines, let us unite our struggles. Let us transform outrage into organization and organization into liberation. And to win, we must build together a movement that dares to plan and to fight for a world truly free, for Palestine, from the river to the sea, and for all of us. Thank you very much.